In the early 90s, this nice lady came to us, and early 90s, she was looking at streams that looked like that picture that she's holding. And she didn't say, "You dirty dogs, get your cows out of here." She said, "How can you dirty dogs help me make this better? And what can you do? How can we make this work for you to make this better so that we can get to what we're standing in now?" And my predecessor, the ranch manager at that time, was Wayne Foschholz, and it made sense to him. And Carol and Wayne started some projects, and we carried them on, and now we're fortunate to say we have what you're looking at there. With the help from this guy, and you've heard a lot about Beaver, I just want to say that we haven't always got along, clearly, but we need to change our thinking about these little guys. You know, we share a lot in common with them. Their whole culture revolves around the work, just like us. They're family oriented, just like us. We like to swim. Well, that's a stretch. But anyways, they've done us a lot of good, and I see a change coming. I think we're changing our thinking about these guys. So I took this picture this morning. This is out my back door. I want to talk to you a little bit about the why we should be doing this. Actually, I took this picture early December. We shipped these calves early December. Some of you have heard me say we got the winter we wanted. Now we just got to want it. 22 below zero New Year's Day at my house. You know, and you think about the storms in the East Coast that those folks are getting, and the thing that we all have in common is global warming. When do we get it, and how do we make it come? Well, you know, the thing about I like to quote Forrest Gump. I'm not a smart man, Jenny. I don't know. It's too big of a concept for me to get my mind around, really. And I also know in animal agriculture, we know that there's folks that like to use sketchy science to further their own agenda. I mean, we see that in animal agriculture. So when we talk about global warming and we beat cows up over it, guys like me kind of tend to glaze our eyes over a little bit. But Carol and I were honored to go to Towson University in Boston last fall, and right there is a picture of a stranger in a strange land. But we were very welcome there, very welcome, very nice folks. Even the vegetarians were nice to me. And I learned a lot there. I met this guy, Jim Laurie, a restoration ecologist. Carol talked to you about him a little bit. This guy talked about slowing water down and putting it to work, which is stuff that I've been saying. And this guy right here was taking chemical waste and making it drinking water naturally, not by adding more chemicals, but by figuring out how to filter it naturally. We also heard these folks talk. The guy on the end, oh golly, oh hey, go back. What are we doing? Sorry. This is what I wanted. This guy on the end, Michael Kravchuk, talked a lot about the small water cycle, and I would encourage you to Google that and read on it some. It had a big impact on me. And the guy next to him's Rajendra Singh, and I really couldn't understand a word he said, but I read a lot about him, and the thing he's done in India to slow water down and put it to work for his people there is just phenomenal. So when you think about climate, you know, when a guy like me thinks about climate, if you've ever rode a motorcycle across a ranch, and you come into a spot, you come out of uplands and you ride through a spot like this, the temperature changes dramatically, and you ride back out of it and it changes dramatically again. It goes from warm to cool to warm. So you think about a flooded plain like this, and the amount of water it's putting in the air and the coolness that it's making. When you think about that, and you think about experiences I've had, like if you fought wildland fire, you know that warm, dry air does a pretty good job of repelling cool, moist air. I've seen that in person. And you hear about the small water cycle, and you hear about, you know, like on the East Coast where there's so much asphalt and concrete, and there's also quite a lot of turf grass, which is nearly the same as asphalt and concrete when you're talking about water infiltration. So when you think about all that ground that's hot and dry, or warm and dry, and how that potentially could block some of that cool, moist air that's coming in from the ocean, things start to click with me a little bit. And you know, whether, you know, what kind of impact that makes to a guy like me in a place like this, I don't know yet. I'm still trying to get my mind around it. But when you look at this cool, wet meadow, and you think about the cool, moist air that this wet meadow is making, why wouldn't you want that? Why don't you want that? That's an answer I don't have yet. So I took this picture out my back door this morning. But we heard quotes from Leopold and some other great people. I want to quote you another great land manager that had 3 steps to the how of the thing. How do you get this kind of stuff going? How do you get it done? And that guy's Vanilla Ice. He had a 3-step program to implement rangeland projects like we're talking about. Number 1 is stop. So you're looking at, you know, Carol showed you this slide. This is late 70s on Susie Creek. The thing about this slide, when you look at it, is I came in the early 90s to Maggie Creek Ranch, and it looked like that. And what I remember is that, you know, starting in June through September, there was no water there. That was just gravel. But the thing about that is I didn't know the potential of that site. I thought that was what it was supposed to be. So the stop part of that sage's advice is to think about your site potential. Now that's important. Think about your site potential. You know, we've done pretty good on a lot of our riparians, and we're thinking about our uplands. Our uplands are never going to look like Grass Creek, Utah. That country is phenomenal. But so thinking about your site potential, stop what's not working, and let's think about stuff that does work. So once you've done that, then what do? Well, of course you collaborate. And you've heard a lot about that. You've heard that word quite a bit. This group here is a tour that we had last August, and that's about as diverse a group as you can have on landscape at one time. There's land managers from federal, state, and local agencies. There's cattlemen. There's me. There's, state director of the Fish and Wildlife Service. The thing about that picture is, as Jay told you, we're not going to agree all the time, but when we really drill down to it, we can agree 80% of the time. And the other thing about that picture is there is a lot of help in that group right there. There's an awful lot of help in that group right there. And help comes in the financial form, obviously. And the thing about it is there's folks out there that will help you financially, but by the time the lawyer goes over the contract, you've spent so much on the lawyer that the money you get out of the deal doesn't work. But there's folks in that group that will help you financially and have figured out that to get to those common goals, we need to get around some of those roadblocks. But also there's folks in that group that will help you with brain power, and to us that was huge, and knowing where you need to go and how to get there. And the other thing I'd like to tell you about that is that, Susie Creek, Maggie Creek, those were pretty big projects. Carol told you the size of the acreage on those, and it's mind-boggling. And what and what James was talking about on the Wine-Cut Gamble scale is just phenomenal projects. But Carol and I heard from a lady in Boston that had something like 10 acres in her backyard that was a golf course, that they didn't want a golf course because they spent their whole time trying to make it look like a golf course. That let Beaver move in, and they got some help to figure out how to make it all work and make it all work for the neighbors. And now it's a phenomenal wetlands that works for everybody. Starting these projects is a big undertaking, and I really like what James said about being discouraged about seeing the bad things. Well, you need to start there so you can get to the good places. And James has been there 6 years. I've been at Maggie Creek 25 years. I would argue with him that I'm as discouraged as he is, but we're making progress, and we're going to get there. So, and if you know Vanilla Ice, the last thing is to listen. So the beauty of doing these projects and working through the discouraging parts of it is that you get to this. This is the money shot. These are the Cubans. This is my Beethoven's Fifth. I can't quote that guy from Iron Man any more than that, but the thing is, for a cattle rancher, good green wet meadow, 2015, third or fourth year of horrible drought, water running through it that we wouldn't have had at any other time. That's the money shot right there. Why don't you want that? The other thing that's important to note, I bet you that Jay and James will tell you the same thing, is that we had to change our thinking about how we graze, clearly, but we didn't change our numbers for these projects. We still, we all have businesses to run, and we just did it differently. That's it.